This is Spud here again with another HitStartNow.com quick hit. One thing I've always enjoyed about video games is kind of the challenge of gaming. You know, like I find myself doing a lot of, say, fighting games, for example, because there's a high element of challenge in it. You never know what your opponent's really going to be like. If you fought the guy before, you do. If he's better than you, you really got to push yourself. You got to learn. You got to strive to be a better player. You know, you really got to try your best to take that guy down. And this isn't just kind of for fighting games. This is gaming across the board. Fighting games is just a good example. But one thing I've always enjoyed is just the challenge of game, rising up to it, trying to take on those people, take down my opponent, no matter who or what my opponent can do. You know, who my opponent can do. But hey, no matter what's going on, you gotta strive to be the better fucking guy. And over the years, that's worked. To and fro, that's worked. You know, there's been a lot of games where I beat through them, no hassle. There's been ones where I struggled for a while and punched on through, and we got to the next level, and we got to the end credits, and life was fucking good. And then there's some games that just kick the fucking bollocks out of me every time I tried, straight up. Games that I simply could not defeat. And there have been a few of these over the years that really kind of stood out. Ones that I put some proper effort into and never got anything back because I never completed them. No matter how hard I tried, something would put me off them. I'd hit a wall. I'd hit a wall that I just could not beat. You know. So I've decided to lay down the gauntlet before myself and to try and beat through a couple of games from back in the day that I simply couldn't do back in the day. You know, games when they were hot, I couldn't beat them. I tried and I fell flat. So I'm starting these games from the start once again. I've got 4 games in question, and the deal is I'm going to play through these games. I'm going to do whatever I can to beat these games, and then I'm going to do a blog about it over on HSN, over on HitStartNow.com. Now it probably won't be in the next month, but maybe the month after that I'll pop the blog up about what hit me then, what's hitting me now, the differences, and whether or not I actually survived. I actually rode the bug to prove that I'm a better gamer now than I was, say, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, whatever the case may be. So, on the list, we have the infamous Final Fantasy VIII. Now, this is my personal favourite Final Fantasy of all times. I think it's a brilliant game. I've always thought it was a brilliant game. A lot of people are big Final Fantasy VII heads because 7 is quite simply the first RPG, proper big RPG they ever played. Therefore, they hold it in very high regard. It's the same with me in Final Fantasy VIII. 8 is the first one I played. And it blew my mind. I thought the story was fantastic. I thought the characters were brilliant. It suited where I was in life at the time. It was always kind of a learning process of how to play in a turn-based game, which I wasn't used to, you know what I mean? I'm more of an action game mostly, but it was incredible. It blew my mind. I laughed, I cried, I thought it was fantastic. I got to the final boss, and I got wiped out. I got absolutely annihilated. I was stuck for weeks. I kept trying and I ended up admitting defeat. I couldn't take it. I can't do it. I can't beat it. Fuck them. So I turned the game off and never played it again until 3 or 4 years later, around say 2008. I started the whole game fresh. Played all the way through it again. Another 70 hours or so to wind up at the same brick wall. I still did not beat the bad guy at the end. Spoiler alert, there will be spoilers along the way here. Sorcerer's Ultimatia, the final boss, bitch. Cannot be her. Can't do it. I had my ass kicked straight up twice. You know, so again, I call it a day, never to come back. I think it's time now to kick up some dust and try. You know, so Final Fantasy VIII is one of the 4 on the menu. For our main course, we have Tomb Raider: The Last Revelation, also on PlayStation 1. I'm a big Tomb Raider fan. I always have been. I love Lara Croft. I think she's a phenomenal character. I think she's one of gaming's best characters and always has been. You know, she's smart, she's tough, she speaks like half a dozen languages. She's a fucking badass. However, Last Revelation always gave me issues. I always got to well, everything seems to be based around Egypt in that particular game. Everything seems to be Egyptian. I remember getting to kind of a museum section with beautiful cliff faces and stuff out the back. And with this huge section, so big that I actually had to load into different parts of the level. It was so big that I could never find my way through it. Again, this is a game I deleted my file multiple times and started again. Could never find my way through this particular level. I remember there being skeletons with like shields and knives and shit like Spinal from Killer Instinct, that kind of shit. Oh, and then Jason and the Argonauts, you know. Could never beat it. This time around, Tomb Raider, you're going to get it. Also on the menu, and just after being thrown onto it there today, is Yoshi's Island. Now, here's a game that I've tried a couple times to beat, and I was somewhere between unable to beat it and unwanting to beat it. There's a lot of things that kind of bugged me in the game, but it's one that I've got to get through. Sooner or later, I've got to get to it. I've got to play through it. You know what I mean? I can't even remember what part I couldn't beat in that game. I just came to a standstill and said, fuck it, I've had enough. Just didn't do it for me. But this time I'm determined to get through it. I'm determined to go all the way through and beat up that bad guy at the end of it. You know, I don't have it on Super Nintendo. I've only got a little GBA card, but that'll do. If there's any differences between the SNES and GBA editions, I have no idea. But Yoshi's Island, you cute bastard, you're in for it next. And finally we have on PS2 The Suffering Ties That Bind, which I'm a huge fan of the original Suffering game. I thought it was fantastic. It's an action shooter / horror based in kind of a haunted prison, if you will, where you play as this guy who murdered his family and can hulk out into this big old beast. It wasn't the deepest of games gameplay wise, but the story had a lot to it. It had a lot to say. The sequel, you're kind of out on the streets, you've escaped the prison, and I remember bringing it home, being delighted to get to play it because I was such a big fan of the full Suffering game. But Ties That Bind was just so fucking difficult that it was constantly off-button. Everywhere I went in, I was being gunned down by some monster or another. And the character design is fantastic, some really cool monsters, but they kicked the shit out of me. Everywhere I went, I ended up in trouble. I persevered and persevered through that game. And at every section I beat on a slither of health. I was being annihilated until I got once again to the final bad guy in it and got destroyed by the final boss. To such an extent that I couldn't take it anymore. I was too pissed off at the game. I thought, fuck it, this is cheap. I'm being beaten for no reason. That was probably a good reason. I was shit. But I just couldn't take it anymore and I nipped it in the bud. So here's the plan. Here's the plan. The plan is all 4 of these titles I intend on beating through in the next month or two. So it's Final Fantasy VIII, Tomb Raider, The Last Revelation, which I believe is Tomb Raider 4, technically speaking. Yeah, I think so. Yoshi's Island, and The Suffering Ties That Bind. I intend on beating through the 4 of them, or at least beating as far as I can through the 4 of them. I was never able to beat them before. Maybe I won't be able to beat them now. I don't know. There's only one way to find out, and that's to throw myself head first into it. I'm going to do a big old write-up, big old blog over on hitstartnow.com's Mind Game section about the pros and cons of going back to a game that defeated you so many times. And just to challenge myself, just to see if I can, because I just love the challenge. And I've already started on Tomb Raider. I'm enjoying it. I can't wait to get into the other ones. So until this blog hits on hitstartnow.com in the Mind Game section, keep an eye out for it. I'll link it into the video once the blog actually gets written up. I'll end up coming back to this video and linking it in. So till next time, this is Spud from hitstartnow.com signing off. Good luck.